Imagine this. A 7-year-old Fernando Torres wanted to be a goalkeeper. He loved diving for saves and throwing himself at the ball, but one day, everything changed. While making a save, he knocked out his front teeth. His mom had seen enough. She told him, "That's it. No more goalkeeping." And just like that, Torres became the best striker of his generation. Back in 2008, Torres was one of the best in the world. He had scored 38 goals for Liverpool in a year and a half. Oh, and remember Spain's 44-year drought without a trophy? Torres ended it with a goal in the Euro 2008 final. That same year, he stood on the Ballon d'Or stage with Messi and Ronaldo. But instead of feeling proud, he wasn't even sure he deserved to be there. But here's the real question. How did someone who didn't even want to be a striker end up dominating the game like this? Fernando Torres wasn't born with a love for football. In fact, his interest in the game only came after watching the anime Captain Tsubasa, or Oliver Y. Benji as it was called in Spain. Even then, it wasn't his passion. It was his brother Israel who pushed him into playing. His connection with Atletico Madrid also came later than you'd expect. The cold, the lack of excitement, it all felt forgettable. But 6 years later, things had completely changed. Atletico was at its lowest point, stuck in the Segunda Division, and desperately needed a spark to lift the fans. That spark? A 17-year-old Torres. The press hyped him as a prodigy, a messiah, the savior of his boyhood club. After a slow start in the Segunda Division, scoring just 6 goals in 36 games during the 2001 to 2002 season, Torres helped Atletico earn promotion to La Liga. In his first top-flight season, 2002 to 2003, things started to click. He scored 13 goals in 29 games, showing flashes of the talent that would soon define him. By the 2003-04 season, Torres was unstoppable. He found the net 19 times in 35 league matches, finishing as the 3rd highest scorer in La Liga. And at just 19, he was handed the captain's armband, becoming the youngest captain in Atletico Madrid's history. Despite the pressure, Torres embraced the role, leading his team to a 7th-place finish and their first taste of European competition in years through the UEFA Intertoto Cup. The offers started rolling in. Chelsea, fresh off Roman Abramovich's takeover, made a massive £28 million bid for Torres in 2003. Atletico said no. The English media couldn't stop speculating about where Torres might go next. Chelsea came knocking again in 2005, but Atletico's president shut it down. Torres himself even turned down another Chelsea offer after the 2006 World Cup, staying loyal to Atletico. He leaned heavily on experienced players like Carlos Aguilera, but still delivered on the pitch, scoring in double figures every season. He stayed for 7 years, longer than anyone expected, and led Atletico back to La Liga before finally moving on. Then came Liverpool, and this is where the story shifts. Fernando Torres' arrival for £20.2 million felt like destiny. This was a player who already had "You'll never walk alone" stitched into his captain's armband at Atletico, hinting that Liverpool was in his heart long before he joined. Torres' time at Anfield can be split into 2 chapters. The first was filled with magic. Goals like the one against Marseille in 2007 showed off everything that made him special. A perfect first touch to leave the defender behind, a quick weight shift to outsmart another, and a composed finish past a sliding tackle. It was the kind of goal you could watch on repeat. The second half? By 2010, Torres had already endured recurring hamstring issues when a knee injury forced him to undergo surgery just months before the World Cup. Determined to represent Spain, he rushed his recovery. But the tournament turned into a struggle. He was dropped after the quarterfinals and then injured again during the final. Although Spain lifted the trophy, Torres' performances marked the beginning of a decline that would haunt him. Liverpool, grappling with internal turmoil under the ownership of Tom Hicks and George Gillett, became the backdrop for his personal frustrations. Torres, seeking reassurance about his role in the club's future, felt increasingly sidelined. When Fenway Sports Group took over in late 2010, they reportedly saw him as a player past his best. By January 2011, the relationship had soured beyond repair, and Torres made his controversial £50 million move to Chelsea. The transition, however, did not reignite his form. At Chelsea, the Torres who once terrorized defenders was a shadow of himself. He scored 45 goals in 172 games, a far cry from the prolific striker he had been at Anfield. The weight of his record-breaking transfer fee, coupled with a system that did not suit his playstyle, left him looking lost on the pitch. Football's harsh spotlight amplified his struggles, and while fans mocked his decline, there was also an undercurrent of sympathy for what he had become. The bitterness from Liverpool fans after his departure weighed heavily on Torres, who had never stopped caring for the club and its supporters. One of the more poignant moments came in 2014 during a Chelsea match that ended Liverpool's title hopes. As Torres broke free, seemingly ready to score, he hesitated, almost as if extending an unspoken apology. When he returned for Steven Gerrard's testimonial in 2015, the cop welcomed him back with his old chant, a moment of reconciliation that underscored the complicated emotions surrounding his legacy. Despite his struggles, Torres's later years were not without their moments of triumph. He won the Champions League with Chelsea, and his unforgettable goal against Barcelona in the semi-finals is still considered one of his finest moments. Calm and confident, he sprinted half the pitch, rounded Victor Valdez, and sent Chelsea to the final with a goal that reminded everyone of what he could do at his best. With Spain, Torres added 2 European championships and a World Cup to his resume, even finishing as the top scorer at Euro 2012. His return to Atletico Madrid saw him lift the Europa League and help usher in a golden era for the club, ironically funded by the money his initial transfer had brought in. His farewell to European football and retirement in Japan were marked by typical humility, apologizing to fans for giving so little, a statement that felt unnecessarily harsh for a player who had achieved so much. When you talk about Torres at Liverpool, you're not just talking about the goals. Although, let's be real, his goals were out of this world. You're talking about what he meant. He was lightning in a bottle, the kind of player you watched and thought, something special is about to happen. Torres was everything a striker should be, ridiculously quick, technically brilliant, and clinical with either foot. Whether he was curling it into the top corner or embarrassing defenders with his movement, he was unstoppable. Vidic and Ferdinand, one of the greatest defensive partnerships ever, were his personal playground. He didn't just play against them, he owned them. And then there was his partnership with Gerrard. Chef's kiss. It was like they had telepathy, with Gerrard dropping dimes and Torres finishing them like it was child's play. But Torres wasn't just about individual brilliance, he was the shining light in a Liverpool team that was visibly crumbling. By October 2009, the squad wasn't what it used to be. The team that conquered Milan in 2005 was long gone. Rafa Benitez's Liverpool relied on a handful of world-class players, Torres, Gerrard, Mascherano, to carry them through games. Meanwhile, the club was falling apart behind the scenes. Hicks and Gillette were running the place like a bad episode of Succession, and the squad depth was shocking. David and Gog leading the line when Torres wasn't fit. It was rough, yet Torres still delivered. Even with injuries slowing him down, he'd pull something magical out of nowhere. It's rare to have a player you expect to score every time he's one-on-one with the keeper. But Torres gave Liverpool fans that confidence. His goals weren't just highlights. They were moments that kept the club alive. Every dramatic winner, every time he torched a defender, every chant of Liverpool's number 9 inches, it all mattered so much more because the club was on the brink of collapse. Of course, his departure to Chelsea hurt. It wasn't just about losing a great player, it was about losing the one player who felt like he got it, who carried the team through the storm. And yes, his song was an anthem. Hearing it ring out at Anfield reminded you that, no matter how bad things got, Liverpool still had Fernando Torres. When he left, it felt like the light went out. Looking back now, his time at Liverpool feels even more special. His highlight reels are pure joy, but the real magic was what he represented. He wasn't just a striker, he was a beacon in the darkest times. If you were lucky enough to see him play, you know it wasn't just about the goals. It was about the feeling he gave you as a fan. And that's why, no matter how much time passes, Torres will always be remembered as one of Liverpool's finest. Torres was nicknamed El Niño for his youthful brilliance, was a technical wizard with an eye for the spectacular. His ability to exploit defensive errors, pressure opponents, and score with both feet or his head made him the world's best striker in his prime. His lightning pace and deadly finishing turned the extraordinary into the routine. Unfortunately, injuries robbed Torres of his speed and sharpness in later years, but his legacy as a striker who combined elegance, work rate, and sheer brilliance remains unmatched. Fernando Torres remains a figure of what ifs. He was once regarded as one of the world's finest players, standing just behind Messi and Ronaldo. Yet, for all his accolades, one cannot help but wonder how much more he might have achieved without injuries and the mental toll of his career's challenges. What do you think was Fernando Torres' greatest moment? His unstoppable run at Liverpool, the Champions League goal for Chelsea, or his legendary return to Atletico? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss more football content like this. See you in the next one.